Welcome to the next episode of WaterparkRangers Let's Play Wind Waker. Last episode we entered this new dungeon, the second dungeon of the game, the Forbidden Woods. And we've been doing pretty well in it so far. Just got a small key from the room that we're leaving, as well as the dungeon and compass last episode. That small key will help us advance further, obviously. Of course, green choo-choos appear pretty frequently throughout the dungeon, so now is a good time to collect their jelly, in case you want to, have lots of it for later, because there is actually something you can do with all this jelly, believe it or not. You can make potions with it if you go to the right person. Anyhow, never mind that, we need to go to that room that the small key will help us get into. This one right over here. It's kind of an annoying room, this one, if you spend too much time in it, honestly, because if you just knock down those things with the Deku Leaf, they'll fall into the water, and unfortunately that doesn't kill them, it just makes them regain their vitality, so they go back up and annoy you, and they'll try and knock you back into that swampy, slimy water. That doesn't hurt you, but you can drown in it like any other water, like the ocean water, so just be careful of that. We've got another enemy to contend with here that's hidden at first. It's the Mothula, and it's a pain in the ass. Get out of my way. Please just let me jump out of your way. It just, basically it's like a magtail, but much, much faster, and it really only takes 1 or 2 hits to kill. But in that time will be an incredibly annoying enemy by just jumping at you and shooting all those morphs to slow you down. You can also grapple golden feathers off it, I should add. But if you don't have to fight them, they're better off just avoided, because they're really just annoying for their speed. The speed is really what makes them annoying. But if you're really good, you can parry them. Even worse, though, is the Miniboss variety, the Winged Mothula. It has a lot more endurance, and unfortunately, you are forced to fight it. The Deku Leaf can be used to stun it, and yes, you can also grapple golden feathers off of this version. I don't see why someone would think otherwise, but just in case you were wondering, that's how you do it. And yeah, it has this new attack that normal Mothulas don't have, which is to rocket at you. It can do this as long as it has its wings. As you can see, where you can parry that attack too, which is very useful. And basically, yeah, that's all it can do. It's really annoying because of those morphs it uses to slow you down. That's generally what makes this a dangerous foe. But once again, the Deku Leaf can be used to stun it. I'm not sure how well it works in normal Mothulas, but I know it works pretty well in this guy. So basically, you just have to be a relentless berserker, and then you can defeat it, just like that. The reason I'm doing a bit more damage to it, and killed it a little bit more quickly than perhaps some people in other videos, is because I was parrying it during those attacks. Basically, it means that you'll have to hit it less times after you've clipped the wings. If you do take too long to defeat it while it's on the ground, though, it will grow them back, so be careful. Anyway, for defeating it, you get the Boomerang, and this is actually perhaps the series' most useful incarnation of this item, which is generally like, this is really a staple item for the Zelda series, the Boomerang, because it can hit multiple targets in this game. It's generally known in the series, for being great because it can hit objects from far and then come back to you, unlike, say, arrows that will run out if you shoot them, and they can miss. Boomerangs are generally more reliable, although the Boomerang in Ocarina of Time just flat out sucks. I'm not afraid to admit that, because it's true. But in this game it's amazing, because it can target up to 5 objects, and it makes killing these P-Hats great, very easy. You can just target them and just mash away at them to kill them, instead of having to deal with the whole, oh, you knocked it down with a Deku Leaf, now hope that you can get to it with your sword before it gets back up. Now it's very quick and easy. And of course, it also eliminates the BS of having to get the Boko Nuts to deal with the flowers on the doors, which was pretty annoying last episode, because we had to do it so many times. But now we don't have to do that anymore, thanks to the Boomerang. And a little hidden thing here, you can climb up with your grappling hook onto this little post, and just keep doing that to get higher in this room. I'm pretty sure this is actually the highest room in the dungeon, and you need to, well, hopefully we can jump to that platform. Moved out of the way. Okay, we'll just wait for it to come to us. We're patient people, we can wait. And it'll take us to the top of the room where actually another joy pendant is hidden. There are quite a few joy pendants hidden away in this dungeon. But then again, there are joy pendants in just about every dungeon, especially later on. Unless you're really not knowing like that you can get joy pendants from the Bokoblins, they're really very easy to gather. But in case you somehow just don't want to do it that way, as long as you're very diligent in the dungeons about like checking out all the secrets, you'll find all the joy pendants you need to, just about. And the rest you'll probably get from random drops just by defeating Bokoblins. To get through here, you need to cut these vines that are holding up these spiky, jeez, they're annoying, spiky, thingamabobbers. I don't even know what these are supposed to be. Anyway, you gotta fly across using the Deku Leaf, time it perfectly because you just have barely enough space to be able to get to the other side. And yes, if you knock into one of those nuts, you will fall down into the swamp water down there, and of course that's the room right before the room with the Mothula. Basically, it just requires a lot of unnecessary backtracking, so don't fall. Okay, what are we doing here? Oh yeah, we gotta use the boomerang to sever these large vines that are holding up this gigantic flower thing. As you can see, there's a warp pot way over there that we opened in the last episode. This is kind of the big central room of the dungeon. Although it doesn't really have that much stuff to annoy you with. I think the idea here is, first off, that we're going to go into the warp pot and return to an early moment of the dungeon. Now, why would we be doing this? It would seem very stupid. Well, it's actually because there is something you can get at this point, now that we have the boomerang, that you could not get before in the dungeon. And it's actually in the second room. It's the one where you found the Knight's Crest, just for reference. You need to go up high, just like before. Come on! Did you see that? Sometimes the controls are a little bit finicky. I guess I can kind of see what people are saying when they say the controls are a little bit wishy-washy at times. It's an odd word to use because it really doesn't mean anything. But, yeah. You saw basically what that entails. Running around in circles when you need to go straight. So from here we can fire ourselves up even further, because we didn't use this one last time, we just went through the door after using the bomb on those choo-choos. And yeah, there are more rupees and stuff up here. There's another Bokobaba. You can get the rupees there if you want, but they're really not necessary, especially since we're nearing 200. Oh yeah, interesting thing, well, important thing I should mention anyway, is that the Boomerang can now one-hit KO Bokobabas, which is incredibly useful. You don't even have to use the Deku Leaf to get ahead in fighting them. Now just one hit from the boomerang will do it. This is the last of the flowers that you have to use to launch yourself to the other side. The reason you need to have the boomerang is because there's no other way to break the eye flower at this point. The boomerang is required, and I think I just fell into that flower by mistake. But anyway, it's replenished a bit of our magic, so there's that. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that this actually holds one of the treasure charts of the dungeon. So you need to come back here if you want to get that treasure chart. It could either lead to something like a silver rupee worth 200 rupees, which we'll pick up at a later point, or possibly a piece of heart. And there are other things you can get too from treasure charts. So just keep that in mind. Now from here, I'm just going to go back to the warp pot and go back to the midpoint of the dungeon where the central room is. And from there, you might remember that when we knocked down that giant flower house or whatever that was, it fell and broke off part of the floor, which is basically just letting us go down to the lower portions of the dungeon. So, in we go. You can actually land on the flower and not get hurt, because it's apparently so soft if you fall from such a high height. Kind of like in Harry Potter, the first movie, remember? When they fell down on that plant after getting past the three-headed dog. They're like, lucky this thing's here. And then it turned out they were not so lucky after all. So to get past these platforms, you just want to boomerang the morphs off them, or use a Deku Leaf. Be sure not to mess up your targeting too much, otherwise you'll target these things hidden in the ground, and that'll be pointless. Those vines will grab onto you and drain your magic, so just keep that in mind, don't let that happen. Over here, I believe this is just a yellow rupee, but we might as well collect it. And then afterwards, you can cut the vines here with a boomerang, or with a very well-placed spin attack, which I plan to do because I'm awesome that way. Thank you. And now, with the platforms there, you can take this bomb flower across and blow off that gate, so we can get past it to the other room. We will find out what is in that room next episode, so I'll meet you then.